And Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga were correct in doing that, and Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are correct in doing that in this season as well. In your shamba today, wherever you've bought a shamba, if the government finds something that is for the national good, they are actually required to evict you. In my view, they're not decisive. They've been politicized. And by politicized, I mean that if you look at Nairobi today, how many evictions have occurred? Westlands, Kibera, all these places, they're evictions. Why? You must always be willing as a government to destabilize a few for the good of the majority. This is what I mean. The Mau Forest is the biggest water catchment area we have in Kenya. Okay, Kenya is one of those countries that is listed as the countries most likely to be affected by global warming and climate change as a whole. So if we as a nation want to exist beyond 2025, beyond 2030, we have to start thinking about our water towers. We have to think about how do we preserve ourselves as a nation. Let's remember, during Moi time, we used to talk about the semi-arid areas encroaching onto the rest of Kenya, and we used to plant trees and things like that. Now we are moving into forest and we are politicizing it, and the reason why we are politicizing it is Kenyans have romanticized land. We think that land is the only access to wealth that there is. So the truth of the matter, these to me are not evictions. This is setting the country right. This is setting the country on the right path. And Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga were correct in doing that, and Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are correct in doing that in this season as well. Let's understand a few things. In your shamba today, wherever you've bought a shamba, if the government finds something that is for the national good, they are actually required to evict you. It is a process. Of course, there's compensation and there's all manner of things to be had, but the national good has to be above the individual good. Otherwise, we cannot have a functioning country. That's how societies were built, that you drive on the left side of the road, not because you don't have a right to drive on the right side of the road, but because you inconvenience society as a whole. So the evictions at the Mau are right for this country. And number two, the politicians who are trying to say that they are unfair are quite misinformed, because number one, we need to understand that that particular forest has been a forest for the longest time. I personally grew up in Joro, which is near Molo, which is near that place as well. And I remember how much rain there used to be when that forest was whole. And I can tell you now how dry Joro is as a result of that encroachment upon that forest. And number two, we cannot sit and watch the degradation of our environment for the basis of political expediency. And this is really the issue. A lot of people and a lot of analysts have said that Raila Odinga lost the 2013 election because of the Mau evictions. Because if you remember, in 2007, he had much of the Rift Valley behind him. And therefore the argument was that because he moved away from, he moved the evictions of people from the Mau, then he lost part of the Rift Valley vote. But what is leadership about? Leadership has to be about making the tough decisions. Leadership has to be about making the decisions that in the long term are good for the country. We can't keep making popular decisions, all right? Otherwise, dentists will start selling candy because that is more popular than extracting your teeth. Just the same way, we should evict people who built on road reserves. We should evict people who built on power line transmission areas. We should evict people who are sitting on grounds that can build a better market, which we do in Nairobi every day. You see, you need to have a forward-thinking attitude towards the development of your country. If you are a baboon, then please argue about your immediate needs. You know, that because you do not have the intelligence to think beyond tomorrow. That's how monkeys think like. But we are human beings. The key differentiator between human beings and animals is two things. Number one, we are self-aware. We are aware we exist. Number two, we are aware of our consequences of our actions. We know that. So when you try to pretend you're not aware of that consequence, then you're behaving like a primate. And that's what our politicians are doing. They're behaving as if they have no concept of the consequences of encroaching upon our forests.